Well, let's talk about the senior living, because that's one of the you're the guy in St. Louis that gets all of the big deals, because you've tapped into something pretty unique. Talk about that.
So when people hear the word senior living, I just want to point out to your listeners that a lot of them think about what's called the residential assisted living section, where you take a big ranch, it's got 5 bedrooms, and you make it into a senior living community. That is not what I do at all. But what I do is the people moving into that 5-bedroom community, or that 150 bedroom community, or that 280 bedroom community, the average Joe is 3.8 move-ins or move-outs a month. So in St. Louis, we have about 250 in our metro area, senior living communities total. Take that times 3.8.
How many again?
250. That's the full metro Illinois, like our full 3 million metro. And that's from, your private pay down to Medicaid. And it's blinding how many levels of care there are too. It's not just from adult daycare all the way up to memory care. And so there's tons of levels based on who the person is and what they need. And so each one of those has an opportunity that when you see that big crane in the sky building that 280 bed community, almost every one of those people had a house. And the moment they were told that they had to move into senior living, nobody does this on their own, right? If me and you were brothers, do you think we're taking our healthy mom for a visit to a senior living community for fun? Right? No way, right? It's usually thrust upon them, and it's literally called crisis care, Joe. When these families find out that they have to move mom into senior living, usually after a surgery or a fall, it's called crisis care management.
Yeah.
And so at that exact, I always say what I do, I get to wear my cape. I didn't tell them the bad news that mom can't live on her own anymore. I didn't tell them that place costs $8,800 a month that we picked out, because you're not going to pick out the cheap place. You're going to pick out the nicest one, because there's some guilt involved, right? I can't take care of my own mother anymore. I didn't tell them how much it cost, but in that moment they realized we're going to have to sell the house to pay for this, right? And it's the house and the stuff. So I would say the most important part, Joe, is getting mom the best care. If you start with that, if you're always thinking, how is mom going to get the best care? The house and the stuff are right there alongside of it going, we need some help with this. Because on average, the adult children live 400 miles away. So the burden that falls, what I call is the most responsible child. And let me point out, when I say child, the oldest, most responsible child I've ever helped was 80. He was helping his 98-year-old mother-in-law to sell her house. And so when I say most responsible child, I'm usually talking about people in their 60s, helping their parents in their 80s. And
wow.
Yeah.
So you call it Mom's House is the name of your business, but like,
yeah, Mom's House. That's what people call it. Yeah.
Are there dads that are doing this? Was it mostly moms?
You know what's funny about that? In the industry, even if dad's still alive, what are we going to do with Mom's House? Your mom kind of, at least for me, mom kind of ran everything, right? So even if dad's lucky enough to be the one that's still alive, which, by the way, if you're a man and you make it to senior living, Joe, you're outnumbered 7 to 1. And
7 to 1?
7 to 1. So you'll have a lot of dance partners if you ever make it to senior living. It's almost always men. We put off our health. I'll give you the numbers. The average stay in senior living is 28 months. Men, it's only 22 months, and women, it's like 37. You're like, well, how is there that big a discrepancy? We push things off longer, we die quicker. It's all those reasons. And so when I call it Mom's House, it's a loving term that in the industry, it's like, what are we going to do with Mom's House?
All right. So, man, it's crazy. My grandpa, by the way, is 97 and still lives by himself in his mobile home in Denver, Colorado. And it just makes you think a lot, doesn't it? Like, what am I going to do? Are my kids going to?
Yeah.
Are my kids going to take care of me?
I have sons, so I think about that a lot. I wish I had daughters, because you get taken care of better a lot of times.
Okay, so this is near and dear to my heart, because my wife's mom, she was widowed twice, and her husband was smart enough to save and invest a lot of money. So when he passed away, she was still in her 70s. She had another 15, 20 years. But she knew, it's funny because she's really fiercely independent, and she knew she didn't want her kids to force her to go. So she went herself to a senior living facility, a really nice one in St. Louis, Del Mar Gardens on Gravois. And because her husband was so smart, she had enough money to buy 2 units together. And so she had her own bedroom and a living room and a kitchen and 2 bathrooms, which is rare to have in a facility like that, side by side, that big, right?
Sure.
But anyway, she loved it there. She actually had a good time and made a lot of friends. Grandkids were all the time coming over to visit her. But she lived for, I think, 17 or 18 years in that place.
Wow.
But loved it. And she liked the convenience of it. She had good view of the garden. She had the best room in the whole place. But anyway, I think about that thinking, I want to be as a husband, I want to be able to provide that to my wife if she lives longer than me, right? So it's just something that's an emotional thing. I think everybody has their own story to tell with this stuff, right?
It's very emotional. I mean,
yeah,
we're talking about your own mother, you know, the person that took care of you better than probably anybody else on the planet in your life. And what's happening today, Joe, is people are living a long time and they're outliving their money. And like you said, it's a scary thought. It's a sombering thought to outlive your money. And even people that have vast fortunes. I know a guy that's almost 100 and he has in-home health care, costs about 30 grand a month for 24-hour care, 30 grand a month, and he's almost out of money. But he also lived to be 100. So no one planned it that way, right? So a man that was a millionaire is almost out of money because, well, he has very expensive care. And I'll say this about your mother-in-law or grandma-in-law. She's the exception. Most Americans have, what's the stat? They don't even have $400 for an emergency update in their home, right? And so when you know mom has a $2,800 pension, but you take her to a place that's $8,800 a month, where is that money going to come from? Yeah. If me and your brothers were like, well, I'm not splitting that with you, or there's always a brother or a sister that's doing better than the other, and there's like all this fighting. So what it always comes down to, Joe, is mom's sitting on the equity in that house. And a really surprising stat is some of these communities here in St. Louis, if mom or dad can pay private pay pricing for 1 or 2 years, follow me here, because the average stay is like 28 months. If they can pay private pay for 1 or 2 years, depending on the community, they will let mom or dad live out the rest of their days under the Medicaid plan. That's a huge stat that people don't know, and they don't publicize it because the private pay communities don't, oh, we don't do Medicaid. Like they have their nose in the air about Medicaid. They don't put that on the door, right? But why that's good for you and I, let's say, it's our mother we're talking about. You want to move mom once. Like your mother-in-law had that great experience. She made friends, and people usually do better when they're not isolated. One of the worst parts about COVID right now is the isolation. People are dying from isolation. And so getting into the community gets mom the best care. Usually gets her some playing card partners. If you like watching Cardinal baseball, eating pie, and there's a lot of activities,
That's all she did. She'd watch every Cardinal game and play bridge almost every second night.
Yeah, that's right.